So there's a lot of different aspects to tackle with slow burn romance, and I think we should probably start with the first set of prompts or questions to ask yourself at the beginning of your story, because this is something that will really help you to identify the different layers of conflicts for your specific story. And once you have the answers to these questions, it will be easier to conceptualize the ideas that we're going to share on the other points. So I'm going to quickly go over the first set of questions to ask yourself at the beginning of your romance story. What is the internal conflict both my characters are personally struggling with? What kind of relationship do they have with each other at the start of the story, and why? How long have they known each other? How did they meet? How much does character A know of character B's internal conflict? How much does character B know of character A's internal conflict? Are they keeping any secrets from each other? And if yes, why? So these are some good prompts just to go over, and if you don't have answers for all of them right away, that's okay. Some of them will come up throughout the course of the story, like maybe how did they meet? Maybe they haven't met yet. Maybe they're going to meet in the course of your story, so that might come later. But figuring out these two characters as individuals, developing them as individuals first, is going to be very helpful when it comes to bringing them on the romantic journey. Because really all well-written romances, especially slow burn romances, are about individuals. You know, it's not just about the characters as a pair. It's about them overcoming individual struggles. And
their own
conflicts.
stories.
Yeah.
And how they intersect.
Yeah, exactly. And how the chemistry of them coming together creates new conflicts. Right. And helps them to overcome their existing conflicts.
And I think that's one of the things that can make it feel so much more richer from a relationship standpoint, is when these individuals have their own goals, they have their own stories, their own personalities as individuals outside of who they are as a couple or potential relationship. And that makes their story and character so much more richer for when those paths are going to cross. It's not like the romance is the whole story and there's really nothing else. I think that's one of the things that can cause it to feel kind of flat, is when you don't have those individual stories. Because just like in real life, you have your own story. So you want each of your characters to have just as much conflict going on.
Yeah, 100%. And if you're finding like, oh, the only conflict I really have is the romance and what happens because of it, then you probably need to take some more time to go deeper into these characters as individuals. So like, what's the first example of the two that we talked about that comes to mind?
The first example that comes to mind for me is Miss Scarlet and the Duke.
Good morning, sir. I'm a private detective working a case, and will pay you handsomely to look the other way.
You're a what?
Word will soon spread that my father has died. If I don't take this case, someone else will.
I'm surprised you haven't changed the name to your own.
Miss above the door. That would be a sure way never to have any clients.
Which is a BBC masterpiece drama. The third season just finished airing recently.
So good. You guys need to go watch it if you haven't.
Yeah, it's excellent. And it's a great example of a slow burn that first ticks the box of each character having their own internal conflict. Really, really clear goals. For Eliza, she has this dream of being a successful female detective in Victorian London and being able to hold her own and have a successful business, even up against the men who have these big detective agencies.
Being a detective is a job for a man.
And yet you do it every day, William.
This is my line of work, not yours.
If I'm to make a name for myself, I need as much experience of crime scenes as possible.
We see that she's really driven by her passion to be able to be an independent, successful woman. And we're rooting for her, and we're watching her struggles as she tries to juggle her personal life with her professional life and find a balance between the two.
A lady should always act like a lady. On the subject of my fee, it's gone up.
That's blackmail.
That is
business. And with the Duke, or William Wellington, we see he's really trying to climb the ladder in the police detective agency he's working for. He works in Scotland Yard. We see the conflicts he deals with at work, constantly having to try to keep everyone else in line, dealing with the stresses of work up against what he would really like to be doing with his life, and also trying to balance his own personal life as well. And we see there's these deep-seated feelings that he has for Eliza and that Eliza has for him.
He will never allow you to work with him.
You've taken a shine to this woman, have you not?
You can handle everyone.
I cannot handle you.
And it roots really deeply into their backstory, which is referenced in a really tasteful way through dialogue throughout the first season.
Yeah.
Mostly we see little tidbits of their conversation referencing how they knew each other growing up, and Eliza's father was his mentor. And so we see that there's like so much backstory, there's so much history with these two characters, but there's this clash of personalities, there's lots of salty banter, there's lots of butting heads because they're both kind of going after the same career. So they're competing in a lot of ways.
We are in competition, are we not?
Sir, are you and her?
No. You reopened one of my cases.
William, we'd save ourselves time if we shared our resources.
It seems to me we have a conflict of interest here.
So we see there's the little bit of like animosity that it rears its head sometimes. There's arguments, there's heated debates, there's secrets they keep from one another, but there's always some kind of emotional roller coaster plot point happening to progress their relationship slowly forward. They also have plans and goals that they're each trying to achieve, making it feel really realistic. So we're watching the Duke's own respective story, we're watching Eliza's own respective story, we're watching them both go after their own respective goals, but we're also seeing them sort of like crash into one another over and over again, and what those intersecting moments look like for both of them.
Yeah, it's so well done. And like you said, there's progression. Like in each episode, you feel like because they go through all these obstacles together, and a lot of times they're working together, and you see the shift in even their attitude towards each other, how it changes from episode to episode, season to season, and how watching them go through different struggles together brings them closer. And in some ways brings them farther apart. Depends on what happens in that episode. But there's always like some form of progression, so that you feel like you end an episode feeling like you've gone to a new place with these characters.
And it also really utilizes what you were saying, the concept of it doesn't have to always be forward progression. It can be 2 steps forward, 3 steps back.
Yes.
With, especially in this last season, season 3, we see the Duke get into a relationship for a period of time with one of Eliza's like enemies from her school days.
Yes.
And we see, how does his relationship with this woman affect Eliza? How does it create new tensions and new stresses?
Feels like you may have been avoiding me.
It's been busy, that's all.
Even though it's kind of going in the opposite direction, you want to see them get together, but it's like, no, we're watching that like totally derail. And what happens if we throw that into the mix? How does that change the relationship? Because all that chemistry and tension is still there.
Yeah, exactly. And it keeps the pacing quick.
Yeah.
It's like something's always changing, something's shifting. There are new conflicts, new little turmoils and disagreements, and it forces the characters to confront themselves in different ways.
I love that.
And face some of their own fears and their own conflicts internally. And that's what we're talking about with emotional progression. So if you feel like, well, I can't have it progress too much because I want to save like the big love profession for the end, like you can totally do that and still have progression. I mean, like, I know as viewers of and fans of Miss Scarlet and the Duke, we're both like waiting
for that moment.
for that moment.
And all the fans like on YouTube, the YouTube community are like, when is that moment going to finally happen? But there has been enough progression in moments that it doesn't feel dragged out. It feels like, the anticipation just keeps building and building. And that's really what slow burn is. When you think about it, you're slowly burning up to, actually igniting this fire, right? So you're building up to the crescendo. You're building that anticipation. It's not that you're just dragging the moment out. You're actually building layers of anticipation is really what Slow Burn is referencing. It's not just a drawn out romance. It is a romance that you're slowly building the anticipation for that big moment where there's going to be, you know, whatever, the love profession scene, the characters finally get together.
Yeah.
You're building the anticipation for that.
Yeah.
So that's a really active plot. It's not the absence of a romance. It's like building this very intricate structure for it to take place.
Yeah, exactly. And I think the way that you build that anticipation, something that I have noticed, is that you have to give us a little something. You know, don't save it all for the end, and also don't feel like you have to rush to give it to us way before the end.
Right.
Like, you can space these it's kind of like a cookie trail.
Yeah.
Like a cookie trail leading up to that, the big kiss or the love profession moment, but we're getting little rewards along the way, you know, for our patience and our dedication to the story.
That's a good way to put it.
You know, so it's like, and you have those little moments in Miss Scarlet and the Duke. They're kind of few and far between, but you see them in all of the like all the fan made videos. Like always have like the highlight moments of like the progression. You know, maybe they touched hands. Maybe she almost told him something of how she really feels. Maybe he almost said something.
So it's always present. You're keeping it present.
Yeah,
you're keeping that thread coming to the surface. So. Yeah. And it's a great way to put it, is you're rewarding your readers or your viewers for their patience.
Yes.
And you're drawing them
just
in.
like, I can make you wait forever.
You don't want to lose
that
that flavor and that thread. You want to keep introducing it and reintroducing it in new, interesting ways.
Yeah, exactly. And you want to keep the romantic tension strong, because if you lose that thread, then you have the characters drift too far apart for a time, you can start to feel like, was there even a romance? I forgot.
Right.
You know? Yeah. I've seen that happen, and it's like, it's a mistake. But
you want to keep that thread.
Yeah, keeping the thread active through the story so that you continue to be rewarded as the reader, as the viewer, but there's still something to be desired. And I don't mean that in like your writing leaves something to be desired. I mean, like, you're literally, the thing that we desire is waiting.
It's still yet to come.
Yes, beyond the edge of the horizon.
We're still anticipating it.
Yeah,
exactly. We're still excited. Because there's also the reverse of this, which is it like happens so soon that it's like there's no longer any questions or intrigue left.
Yes, and I've seen that done way too many times, that it's like, I was waiting for this to like slowly burn and boil up to this moment, but it's like, no, we're just gonna like quickly pile it on right now.
There it is.
Like,
next topic.
It's almost like you could tell that the writer was like eager to just get it out of their system.
Right.
It's like, so it kind of, it kills the momentum, and it makes it not as exciting or like intriguing of an experience.
Yeah.
Not as active of a viewing or reading experience. It's kind of more passive, because it's like, we already have seen everything. We feel like we've already seen everything. Like, what else is there? So you want to leave that big unknown and that build up, but you want to make sure that we're still getting little rewards along the way that keep us motivated to keep going.